What do you think makes your approach to marketing stand out?
I don't know that there's anything that I do specifically that makes it stand out other than the fact that I just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Just
honestly,
do the thing, right? Just say it.
It's the consistency. It really is. It's you can't just talk about it. You got to actually do it. And I think it's consistency over time. Because I have worked with a lot of voice actors who have done marketing for a week or a month or maybe 6 months, maybe a year. And then they're done.
Yeah.
And I have been marketing with consistency since 2012. That's it. It's showing up every day and putting myself in front of people. Every day in some capacity, I am trying to get myself in front of new people who might want to work with me and people who I have previously worked with so that they don't forget about me. It's consistency over time.
Life gets tough, and I know it's hard to cope with the unknown. For all of us, I know it'd be easy if we were perfect, but we're not. So we go to find our faith, to find our hope. It all begins with looking up. It all begins with you. It's time to elevate.
Welcome to Time to Elevate podcast. I'm your host, Ann Lucente. And whether you're joining me for the first time or you're a regular listener, I'm so happy you're here. One of the beautiful things about the voiceover and podcasting world is the sense of community. There's a deep, almost unexplainable connection that ties us all together, and it's through that connection that I met my guest today. From the moment I started my voiceover journey, it was so strange because people kept telling me, you've got to talk to this guy. Anytime I asked about anything, it was always, you got to talk to this guy. And at first, I didn't know what to expect. But once I reached out, it became clear that he was someone I needed in my corner. And by the end of this episode, I'm pretty sure you'll feel the same way. What I really love is that he is the type of person who gets straight to the point, cutting through the fluff. And if you know me well, you know I love that straightforwardness. He's fully present, though, in every conversation, never offering generic responses, but instead truly tailoring his advice to who you are. When he gives you advice, it's personal, specific, and exactly what you need to hear. And for the moments when you're stuck or hesitating, these 4 words may ring in your ear: just do the thing. Beyond that, he's got this incredible ability to make Christmas magical for voice actors, embracing the role of Santa like no other. Before I introduce him and let him in, let me give you just a little background on him. For over 20 years, he has been involved in the broadcast and voiceover industries, working as a full-time voice actor since 2012. As he's learned how to grow his business, he developed a passion for helping others grow theirs and has followed this passion in creating the VOpreneur community and coaching voice actors as their guide through the business of voiceover. So sit back, relax, and get ready for an inspiring conversation with today's guest, a talented and successful voice actor, voiceover marketing coach, podcast host, and the original VOpreneur, my friend, Marc Scott.
You just set like a totally new and possibly unattainable benchmark for podcast introductions. I'm like, when I do an intro, like my guests on my podcast now are going to be like, what the? You need to do an intro for us like Ann does. So thank you for that. Like, that is like next level stuff right there.
Well, thank you, because this is all you. I had to shorten it, Marc. You have so much happening. And like, I know you for a few years now, and I know all the things you do. But when you actually start to put it on paper, I thought, oh my God, Marc, I'm going to have you here all night. Tell your family you're just going to have to sleep there for stay on the podcast.
I spend a lot of late nights in the studio anyway. So, one more, if we're going to hang out for a few hours, nobody will even notice that I'm gone.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. So thank you, really, for taking the time to be here. This is wonderful. And
I wish I would have known, because is that the HyperX, the Quadcast microphone that you're using?
Yes, like yours, right?
Yeah, I should have got mine out, and then I could have made mine orange, and you could have had yours purple, and we could have had a whole thing going. I should have had it ready.
You should have had that ready, because that's the first time I saw it was when you had it. And when did you get it? A few years ago, right?
Probably about 2 years ago, maybe I had it and used. I used it for quite a while for doing my YouTube live streaming, because it's a fun microphone. I mean, any microphone that you can program to change colors, like, that's a cool microphone.
And I remember seeing it when you used it, and you don't
Yep.
use it now much, or?
I have like a whole collection now. I literally bought one of those big husky tool chests from Home Depot that's literally sitting on the other side of my desk right now, that's filled with all of the various and assorted equipment that I've worked my way through, because
Oh my gosh.
there's a new microphone. Oh, there's a new interface. Oh, let me try that or whatever. So
I know, I love it. It's all about that, right? It's like, I don't need per se
No.
another microphone. But I saw yours first. You had this first, and then Jody Krangle has one, and
Yep.
I've been looking at that. And then I did an interview with Jennifer Hensel. I don't know if you know her. She's Women in Podcasting. She's a white one. So I was like, all right, that's it. I'm getting one of these.
Well, I think Jody actually bought it after she saw it on the Free Advice Friday too. So there's a few different people that had reached out to me about that, and the
I
only
love it.
the only thing that made me sad about it at the time, and maybe it's changed, but at the time you could only use a Windows computer to program it, like to change the colors or whatever. And I'm all
Mhm.
Mac, so I actually had to take the computer to my mom's house, or take the microphone to my mom's house and hook it up to her computer so that I could set it to be orange, and then bring it home and hook it up again, because they didn't have Mac software. But
Yeah, I don't know
it's
if
fun
they,
microphone.
Oh, I have a PC, so I was all set. I was like, "Oh, let me change it." And then what it looks like on screen sometimes is not the same. So it's a little different. It's pinkier on this end, but I like it. So it's really cool. So I wanted to say, I believe, like, no joke, that's when I think I first even heard of you, was just beginning voiceover. And any questions I would ask, especially marketing. And I think it was Everett Oliver who said, "Call Marc Scott." And I'm like, all right, like, I keep hearing this name. So I'm like, all right, I'll just meet with you. And you just have like such a wealth of stuff out there. Like, seriously, and like I said, I loved talking to you. I loved just having a consult with you, because you truly listen to me. And I'm sure everybody else, you truly listen. And it's like, you made it so simple, which was like such a huge thing, because in my head, and maybe many others, I make things so complicated. And then you'd be like, well, that won't work for you. So try this. And I'd be like, oh, well, that feels good now. Thank you, Marc. I like that. But before we get into your stuff, because I got questions about your stuff.
All right.
I want to start with you. Tell me a little bit about you. Where are you from?
Southern Ontario, which a lot of people don't realize this. I blow a lot of people's minds with this, but Southern Ontario is actually further south than probably like the upper 20% of the United States, if you actually look at it on a map. Because everybody always, oh, Canada, oh, is it snowing? Is it cold? And I'm like,
Right.
no, in the summer, it gets to be like 110 degrees here, just like everywhere else. And if you look on the map and you draw the line across, you realize how much lower Southern Ontario is than a lot of some of the upper states. And so
Mm-hmm.
we are America's hat. That's what Canada is,
Yes.
America's hat.
Yeah, I was just in Montreal, not as far as you are from me. So I'm in New York, so I'm in Hudson Valley.
Mhm.
So that's only 4.5 from me. I think you're probably about, I don't know, 7, 6, 7. Not terrible. Not
Yeah,
awful.
I mean, I could be from here. I can be in Buffalo in
Mm-hmm.
probably just under 2 hours. So I
Okay.
don't know.
So yeah, Buffalo's between like 4.5, 5 for me. So yeah,
Yeah.
I know, it's so interesting how that happens all the time. So also you've got a beautiful family, and so tell me about them.
I am massively outnumbered in my house. So I have a wife and I have 4 daughters. In probably about 2 or 3 hours from now, as we are recording this, my mother-in-law will be here to stay for a while, and one of my sister-in-laws is coming as well. Thankfully, my brother-in-law, so there will be 2 of us at least. We'll be able to whatever, hang out in the garage or hang out in the shop or whatever. But yeah, I am massively outnumbered in a house full of women, and it's one of those things where I spent the vast majority of my life growing up, and even in early adulthood, thinking I was never going to have kids. I did not feel equipped for kids. I am very much a hermit, very selfish in that regard. And so the idea of, trying to have kids, family, all that sort of stuff, I was like, I'm not equipped. But look at me now with 4.
Wow.
And the joke is that I have 16, 12, 3, and newborn. So I literally have all 4 major phases of life as well, because I have newborn, toddler, tween, and teen that I'm dealing with
Oh,
simultaneously. And so
wow.
that is,
And you're still smiling, and you still don't look as exhausted as you should look.
oh my goodness. It is an experience. Yes, it is an
Wow.
experience, but I absolutely love them. Wouldn't change a thing. So
That's so great. And now I know you call the younger one. Well, do you have names for each of them? Because I know the Boo was the one that I kind of knew.
yeah, so we have Kinsley, we call her the Bean. And that just came originally because she came a little early and she was
Oh,
tiny. She was
oh,
like 5 pounds.
wow.
They when they put her in my hand in the delivery room, like literally sat her in my hand, and I was
Wow.
terrified. Like
Yes.
Kaylee was the first baby that I had ever really held. So
Yeah.
that was my only frame of reference. And she was, I think, 7 pounds, 12 ounces. And so to have
Wow.
a 5 pound baby sat in the palm of my hand, and I was like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me.
Wow.
So it was like she was our jelly bean. Like she was literally the
Oh,
size of
so
a jelly
cute.
bean. And so we ended up with the Boo and the Bean.
That's so cute. I had twins, and I had 3 kids, but I had twins, so I know, and actually, they were bigger than the Bean. They were actually 5'8" and 6'8", and they were teeny because my son was, like, almost 9 pounds. So you have,
Yeah.
like, "What is this
That
little
is a big,
thing?"
yeah, yeah.
It's very scary, I know. Oh my gosh. I also know that you love to, use is it called a meat smoker? Cooker? I don't know
I
anything about it.
I love to smoke the meats. Yes, I discovered a love for barbecue. Man, when did I get my first smoker? Probably not too long after we moved into this house. So probably like maybe like the summer of 2018, I think maybe. It was
Okay.
just something I was like, you know what, I'm going to try this. I'm very curious about this, and it's something that I really love doing. And so I'm that guy that will sit out. I'll light the fire at 8 o'clock at night, and I'll sit out there until 2 o'clock the next afternoon,
Oh,
smoking a
jeez.
brisket all night or whatever, and then have a bunch of family over and feed 30, 35 people or whatever. And I absolutely love doing that. I enjoy cooking, but
Mhm.
definitely there's something to be said. Look, if you're going to sit beside a barbecue for
Mhm.
18 hours, like you kind of got to love it a little bit. And
You
so
gotta. You gotta.
it's it might just be that it's like the quietest place in the house at that point, like sitting outside in the backyard at 2 o'clock in the morning under the stars when the kids may or may not be sleeping at that point, but you're outside, so who cares?
Exactly. You're like, "I'm alone." I
Yeah.
used to be like, I have to go to the dentist. That's so great." The crazy thing, just for those moments
Yep.
of
Yep.
breathing, those breathing moments. But that's pretty cool. So, share your journey. I know, like, I've heard you, 'cause I know things about you anyway, but when I wanna do a podcast with someone, I like to listen to all their stuff. I don't like to over listen because I don't wanna repeat stuff. But
Yep.
then again, I do know you started in radio, but I wanna say
Yes.
before that, like, what were you always, like, in the arts and things like that, or, like, into the media, or was there something else you did even before that?
I would say that I decided from probably like, I don't know, maybe 10 years old that I decided that I wanted to do radio.
Oh, wow.
Um, and that was a product of Casey Kasem and listening
Yeah.
to the top 40 every week. I thought, like this guy's literally got the greatest job on earth. He works for 4 hours a week. He's probably making a lot of money. He only has to listen to the good songs. This is the
Oh my
ideal world.
god.
So there was that. And then I was fortunate enough where I lived. I've got proximity to Toronto, and Toronto is a major market. So there was some pretty good radio stations in Toronto back in the day, and some pretty good announcers in Toronto back in the day. And so there was guys like Jesse and Gene who did a morning show, and Tarzan Dan who did an afternoon drive show, and those were some of the guys. Cliff Dumas. These are guys that I listened to from a very young age, and just thought, this is it. This is what I want to do. And so I made that decision from a pretty young age, and I'm pretty stubborn. So once my mind is made up
Mhm.
about something, then that's it. That's what's going to happen. And so
I love it.
everything from that point was an intentional decision working towards that direction to make that happen.
I love that. I really love that. Yeah, that's so great. And you're very determined. Like I consider myself like when I say something I'm going to do, but you are beyond me. Like you're beyond. You just like I love it. That's why you're doing what you do and we all come to you to say, "What do I do?" But that's a great thing to be like that. And then from that point, so you got into radio.
Yeah, so I worked, I did my first radio experience was working at a country radio station when I was in high school. I did a high school co-op program there. And so I worked at that radio station. I ended up doing 2 semesters of co-op there and had the opportunity to get on the air. They hired me on the summer after I graduated. And so I worked part-time for them through the summer after I graduated. I applied to the British Columbia Institute of Technology, which was supposed to at the time had one of the best broadcasting schools in the country. And so I had applied to go to school there. But then I ended up getting hired for a full-time radio job at one of my local stations. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll work for a year and make some money, then go to school. And after I'd been on the air for a while, I remember sitting down with my program director one day and just saying like, look, I have this opportunity. I've been accepted. What do you think? And he's like, so you're going to give up your job in radio, your paying job in radio, so that you can go pay to go to school to learn how to do radio. And I was like, okay, well, when you put it that way, it seems really stupid. So I ended up staying. I ended up going to college, which may or may not be a good thing. But so I worked there for a couple more years. Then I want to say it was around 1998. I had an opportunity to, I had a friend who was working in television at the time, and he brought me into work with him the one day, and I got to sit down and have a conversation with his boss. I sat in on one of their meetings, and just kind of on a whim, I said to his boss, hey, you should do a countdown show. You guys have got all this stuff going on. Why don't you do a countdown show? And it literally was like that. That was and he said, okay, you going to do it? And, so then I moved to television. I had never set foot in a TV studio before in my life, but I was given the opportunity to do a show. And so I had to learn how to become a television editor. And I wrote the show and hosted the show and edited the show and did the whole thing. And so I did that that show was probably on the air for about 3 years, maybe.
Wow. And a countdown show is what? Is it
music video countdown show? Okay. Yeah, it was music videos. Yep. So just a weekly show. Like that was my, that was my Casey Kasem moment, right? Because I said from a very young age that I wanted to, it was going to be Casey Kasem. Yeah. So I had the opportunity to do that show. I ended up doing that show for about 3 years. Then I moved to a different company, got a chance to do another music video countdown show. So I did that one for about 2 years. At the same time, I was also working on a syndicated countdown show, radio. So I was, I was doing what I set out to do.
Yeah.
So that was my, that radio and TV career, that kind of spanned from 1995 was when I started at my first co-op. And my last radio job came to an end in 2011.
Wow. And the reason you stopped radio?
Same reason why most people stopped doing radio. I got
money
downsized.
And downsized is both sometimes. Yeah.
Yep. I got downsized. The last station that I was at, it's the irony of it was part of the reason why I got that job was because I had told them in the interview, this is it for me. This was the career benchmark, this station, this market. I didn't have any desire to go to Toronto. I was a small town kid. I couldn't deal with the city. So I was like, this is it. This is where I plan to get to my whole career. And this is where I'm prepared to stay for my whole career. So that was part of the reason why they hired me. And so the irony of, like 6 months later, after delivering a #1 ratings book, then getting downsized. And
makes no sense.
But it set something off. And it really set something off inside of me at that point where I got offers to go back to radio. I had probably about half a dozen different job offers from different places who wanted me to come. But I thought, if I can be #1 and not have job security, this is not an industry that I want to be a part of anymore. And so I didn't end my career in radio with the intention of starting a career in voiceover, but the end of my career in radio became the catalyst for the career in voiceover, which ended up being the career that I had kind of always wanted, but just never wanted to admit because I was too chicken to do it. Like I'm not afraid to admit that I was never going to quit my job and pursue voiceover full time. So I figure that's why God, quit for me, forced my hand. Right. And I needed it. I needed it.
Mm-hmm. That happened to me too. I'm the same way. It's like, I don't think I could walk away from a job, but I also got laid off and I'm like, okay, maybe it's time to start something.
Yep.
It's really hard to walk away from something like that.
It is.
It really is hard. So once that happened, then you knew like, okay, I'm going to go into voiceover, or how did you get into voiceover?
So I had been doing voiceover on the side for a number of years. Again, radio, no money, right? So you gotta have alternate income streams. So I had been doing voiceover for a bunch of years, was using the pay-to-plays at that point in time, and making a little bit of money. I guess what ultimately happened was after getting laid off, I moped around in my underwear, feeling sorry for myself for a couple of months.
Right.
But I got to a point, so I got let go at the end of January in I guess it was 2012. And so by the end of the year, towards the end of the year, I guess I hit a point where I realized like, well, I'm still paying my bills. And so it wasn't an intentional decision of I'm going to pursue voiceover full time. It was, I need to make some money. I already do voiceover. Let me do this while I figure out what I'm going to do next. But then getting down the road and realizing, well, maybe this is what you're going to do next because you're still paying your bills and you're making some money. And because I had time now to give to it, I was able to start to grow it. And so it was not, I wouldn't say it was an intentional thing. It was just kind of oh, this is happening. Let's go with that.
Right. And now I know you do e-learning, right? Corporate narration, other things. Tell me. I don't want to talk for you. What?
Yeah, I mean, I've done commercial. No, I've never done a ton of commercial, but I've done commercial, mostly local, regional commercial. A lot of non-broadcast stuff, a lot of corporates, a lot of explainers, a lot of e-learnings and things of that nature, which is not sexy, but it's plentiful. And it usually pays pretty good.
Right. Sexy gets old.
Yeah. Competition is a lot harder. Let me tell you right now, there are a lot more voice actors fighting over video games than there are fighting over training videos.
Oh, gosh. Yes. So that's good to know because,
I just, animation, video games, like all that sort of stuff, it was never really anything that I really gave much of a thought to. And see, I come at this from the business side of my brain, right? Most voice actors come at this from the creative side of their brain, and it's the creative nature of the industry that fuels them. I come at it from the business side of my brain. And so I'm a guy that after I'm doing it for a minute, I sit down and I look at, okay, where are the dollars coming from? All right, well, the dollars are coming from e-learning and the dollars are coming from corporates and the dollars are coming from explainers. Great, let's just go do that. And so it was never about filling a creative desire in my soul or anything. It was about where am I making money and how do I make more of it? And so in some senses, that's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because I don't ever feel unfulfilled because I haven't done a national commercial or I haven't done a AAA video game or whatever. And so it's a blessing in that sense, but maybe it's a curse in the sense that I also do not have the same creative acting ability that a lot of other voice actors do because I literally operate from the opposite side of my brain.
But I like that side of your brain because it's not that it's only about money, but we got to live, right?
We got to live.
We got to do that stuff. That's what it's about. And we got to enjoy what we're doing. So you enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
So how did you go? Did you just start looking for these? Did you have some sort of people connections you knew anyway through radio kind of knowing? And that's how you got started?
So I was doing the online castings at that point. So this is, we're talking 2011, 2012, kind of in that range. I was doing voices.com. I was doing Voice 123, making decent money on both of those platforms. But there came a point when it occurred to me, if there's a certain percentage of people who are looking for work on these casting platforms, then it stands to reason there are probably similar people who need voiceover, but they're not on these platforms. And so how do I get in front of those people? I did not have a natural inclination to marketing. Like I didn't have any education or training or anything like that. It's literally just follow the money. Okay, look, I'm getting hired for e-learning and there's this many e-learning jobs on online casting. How can I find more e-learning jobs? How can I find more corporate video jobs? How can I find more explainer jobs? And so I started reaching out to companies directly, and mostly it was entirely fruitless because I completely sucked at it. But then that's where it's like, okay, I got to figure out how to do this better. Naturally inquisitive, lifelong learner. And so, took some entrepreneurship classes, went through community college, took some entrepreneurship classes, attended some marketing events and conferences, read a crap ton of books on sales, marketing, business, entrepreneurship, all those sorts of things. And eventually you just start to put the pieces together and get better at it over time. When I was writing my blog at the time, my blog was a reinforcement for me of what I was learning. I'm one of those people where if I read it, if I don't talk about it in some capacity, it won't stick. And so I started writing my blog very much, well, two reasons. One, because I read a Gary Vee book and Gary Vee said you should write a blog. And I was like, okay, well, if it's good enough for Gary Vee, then it's good enough for me. So that was the first reason. And then the second reason was, okay, well, if I'm going to write a blog, what am I going to write about? Well, why don't I write about all this marketing stuff that I'm learning? Because it'll help me to remember it.
Right.
Well, then the natural extension of that, which I did not foresee, was all of a sudden you get other voice actors who are reaching out and saying, hey, tell me about this marketing thing. Tell me more, tell me more about this marketing thing. And so that was never even anywhere in my radar to pursue coaching at any point. It just I kind of fell into it as a result of my own journey in trying to figure out how to grow my own business. And so thankfully for everybody else, I made so many stupid mistakes over the span of 3 or 4 years and found the solutions to them that I was able to help some other people not make all the stupid mistakes and hopefully get where they wanted to go quicker.
We're so glad for that. Thank you. But it's, what I love about hearing that too is because, people might look at you now and be like, you're so good at it and you know everything and, but you learned all this. We think when we start, we have to know everything. And if we fail, we're like, forget it. We're not going to be good at this. And that's not true.
I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with my wife and with a couple of people who I consider to be mentors where I've said, I should not be charging money for this information because this information is so basic. And they're like, to you. And that's the thing, right? Yeah. Okay. To me, it is basic now because I've been doing it for 10 years.
Right.
10 years ago, I didn't have a sweet stinking clue. I mean, if you go back to some of the early marketing emails that I sent, like it's a wonder that anybody ever responded to me ever. Like all of it was so bad. I just didn't know anything. And so I do have to remind myself that, the reason why I can teach it today, and maybe the reason why I can teach it well, is because I've literally had a decade of living it day in and day out. And it is second nature to me now, where it absolutely was not second nature to me previously. I was a radio bum. I didn't know anything about marketing and emails and social media. I mean, frig, social media didn't exist. None of us knew anything about social media at that point.
Right. In some ways good. It would be stress-free, but very bad. You can't get to anybody. So we're thankful for that. But that's what I mean like I'm saying, when coaching with you and meeting with you, you make it simple. Like our brains are so full of trying to figure out stuff that we don't know anything about half the time. And you'll listen and you'll be like, okay, so this would not be. Like even when I was like a while back going like, I don't know, can I do pay to plays? And they've changed, I know, over the years and stuff like that. But you were like, this is the one that would work for you. These would not, because of your schedule, because of what you're doing. So I love that you listen and you tailor. It's not that set. This is what works for everybody, because it doesn't, and then you get overwhelmed. So Now, the VOpreneur journey. Now, I'm trying to figure out what came first. Like, you have a podcast, right? The Everyday
Yep.
VOpreneur.
Yep.
And you also and the voiceover marketing coach. That's all combined in that whole package. But what came first? Like, did the podcast come out of all of this as you were doing it, or from the blog, kind of?
Yeah. So I wrote a blog 5 days a week for several years.
Wow.
Which is
That's amazing.
Really stinking hard.
I don't blog, so I am in awe that you did.
Yeah, 5 days a week was really stinking hard. Now, at that point in time, I was single, and so that made a difference.
Right.
But so I wrote a blog for several years for 5 days a week, and then it became every other day because I just was having a hard time keeping up. And then it's one of those things where the industries shift, and you got to pay attention to the shifts. And I'm not going to say that there's no value in blogs. There's absolutely value in blogs. But I was watching the rise in the podcast space. And I was also listening to my audience. I did not want to do a podcast. I was very opposed and fought the idea of a podcast probably for a year, maybe even longer. Yeah. But people just kept asking. And so I got to a point where I was like, okay, I can't do a blog and a podcast.
No, God.
So what if I do the podcast, try to make it really good, and it replaces the blog? And so that was kind of that transition. In the midst of all of that, I was doing YouTube stuff because that was another evolution that had happened, right? Everything was blog. Then it became blog and video and kind of a combination of those two. And then that eventually evolved into video and then podcast. And that's just, it's just the evolution of the internet, how we consume content, what people are looking for. And me just trying to keep up with all of the changes, but also recognizing like I can't do all the things. So I gotta decide somewhere.
Right. And this year was what was the year you think about this timing?
Okay. So I'm on episode 275 of the podcast now. So, and I do the podcast once a week. So what's that? 4 or 5, almost 5 years, I guess, maybe.
Okay.
I've been doing the show.
I remember not knowing what a podcast was. What is a podcast? Now what is this? Like, what else do I need to know?
Well, and then the next extension of the podcast was about a year and a half ago, maybe. I was starting to get a lot of pressure to do a video version of the podcast. I'm like, for the love of God, how much more do you want from me? Like, I am one man.
I know, right? No
literally
more.
one man.
You were solo first, correct?
Yeah,
You didn't start with guests, right?
No, I did it all. Well, and I didn't want to do guests because I'm like, okay, if I do guests, now I got to do prep. I got to do research. I got to write questions. I'm not a good interviewer. Like, these are all the things that are in my head at the time. And so I'm like, okay, this is going to be so much more work. But then there came a point where I was like, okay, do I even have anything else to say? Like, I have been literally saying stuff for years. Like, I like, people have got to be sick of me at this point.
I'm tired of hearing my own voice.
And so I started doing the interviews, and then the next was start, the request to do video. And I will tell you straight up, I don't care what people think about AI. There would not be a video version of my podcast, if there was not AI. Like, AI tools that I'm using, we're recording right now in Riverside.
Right.
Riverside makes certain aspects of doing a video podcast really, really easy. And I have an AI plugin that I use in Adobe Premiere, which makes editing the video version of the podcast really, really easy. And so those advances, that technology has made it possible for me to continue to do the things that I do and do them at the scale I do. I hope, I'm like, okay, so, we've done blogs, we've done video, we've done podcasts. What's next? And I figure eventually, because our attention spans are completely getting fried by social media and all of that stuff, I'm like, whatever the next trend is, hopefully it only takes about 15 seconds because we got no attention spans anyway. And so I'll finally be able to start scaling back a little bit. Instead of sitting
Oh my
recording
God.
1 hour podcast interviews or whatever, I'll just be like throwing up 15-second clips on social media or something. But
It'd be great. You could do
Yeah.
like 10 people in an hour. Okay, get on. Get 15 seconds. All right, you're out.
Give me your best tip.
It'd be so great. I swear, it's true. That's the sad part. It's so true. It's like, oh my gosh, how long is this? How long is this podcast? So, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. It really is crazy. So, what do you think makes your approach to marketing stand out?
I don't know that there's anything that I do specifically that makes it stand out other than the fact that I just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Just
honestly,
do the thing, right? Just say it.
It's the consistency. It really is. It's you can't just talk about it. You got to
Mhm.
actually do it. And I think it's consistency over time.
Mm.
Because I have worked with a lot of voice actors who have done marketing for a week or a month or maybe 6 months, maybe a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're done.
Yeah.
And I have been marketing with consistency since 2012.
Yeah.
That's it. It's that
Mhm.
it's showing up every day and putting myself in front of people. Now, do I do it at the same scale that I did it in 2012? No. And I can't. But
Right.
every day in some capacity, I am trying to get myself in front of new people who might want to work with me and people who I have previously worked with so that they don't forget about me. And
Mhm.
that's it. But it's consistency over time. Now,
Right.
Can you do things that stand out? Can you find unique ways? Can you carve out a niche? Yes, you can do absolutely all of those things. But if you're like me and I'm, not creative by nature, I have not found yet in a decade that it has to be some super creative, super fun, super unique. It's just showing up every day.
Mm-hmm.
Just showing up every day.
And do you I know I see things you post all the time, but I don't pay attention. Like, is it every day? Do you do a few times a day? Like, are you posting every single day? How's it happening?
I try to speak to my voiceover audience. So through the VOpreneur Facebook group, I try to get in there every day. I show up on LinkedIn every day. I don't post on LinkedIn every day, but I try to show up on LinkedIn every day. And that's, commenting on the people that I've added into my network, adding new people into my network.
Right.
I try to do some form of email marketing every day. Thank goodness for some of the automation tools that have been built into CRMs and stuff like that. Now it's made it a little bit easier for me. But yeah, there are certain things that are happening every day or pretty darn close to every day.
Mm-hmm. And it's being present, right? It's
Yep.
creating a presence. I think that's what, that's
Yep.
what it is too. Because sometimes it is overwhelming. There's a lot of noise in
Mhm.
every aspect, not just what we're doing, just the entire world. There's so much. So it's a matter of also figuring out what you need, what you can fit in, and how to stay present, right? I mean, that's kind
For
of
the long term.
for the long term, right?
Because
Not
there's a
just
lot
quick.
of people who will get really excited.
Mm-hmm.
They'll take a course or they'll have worked with a coach or they'll come back from a conference or whatever. And we ride that high.
Yeah.
And we come home and we're excited and we've got this new great idea and I'm going to start doing Instagram or I'm going to start doing TikTok or I'm going to start doing YouTube short, whatever it is.
Right.
And they'll do it and they might even show up and do it every day. But after a month, when they haven't produced the results that they were wanting to produce because they probably had unrealistic expectations in the first place, then they burn out.
Or it doesn't feel good, right? Because we all have days, no matter how much we love what we're doing, they're all like, "Ugh, like, I don't feel like it." Like, one of my many wishes in life, not many, but one of my wishes would be, of course, more time, maybe not necessarily more time in a day, but more energy for the time that I have in the day. Because by the nighttime, I'm like, "I'm so tired." Like, what is that? And I can imagine I'm talking to you with four children.
Well, but you know what? Part of that is adapting to the times and finding the efficiencies. And so, I use Nimble for my CRM, and Nimble recently introduced a feature called sequences.
Oh.
And with a little bit of effort up front to write the emails that are required for the sequence, you can now fully automate an email sequence. So all of your
nice.
follow-ups.
Nice.
So I sat down a few weeks ago and I wrote 10 emails, 10 really good, follow-up emails, and I put them into a sequence, which will be targeted towards prospects, and it'll go out. They'll get an email every 30 days. So 10 months, 10 months of fully automated marketing is now happening as a result of one afternoon of just sitting down and writing the emails. And now I don't have to think about it for 10 months. That's how you do everything that you have to do when you don't always have time or energy or whatever. Is you look for efficiencies that can help you to do it. Because I've said all along, I do not spring out of bed and to fly down to the studio to send marketing emails. That is not the thing that gets me up and gets me going. But I recognize that it's the thing that gets me into the booth.
Now, the question is, are you going to have a course on that, or do you have one already? Sequences. I know you have Nimble.
I have a course on Nimble that teaches people how I use Nimble. So I will be adding a video to that course. So anybody that's purchased that course already, they will get access to that. I hadn't put it in yet because I wanted to play with it first. And so I've been running a sequence now. I've got 3 different sequences going. The first one ran for a month. And so it just finished.
That's
and
great.
So I wanted to kind of get a feel for the software and how it worked, and if I made any mistakes in setting it up and all of that sort of stuff. And so now that I've got those sequences going and everything seems to be running smoothly, that is one of the things that I will do is I will add a video on that to that course.
I like that because at the moment I don't use Nimble. I use Close, but I have to check. I don't know if they do sequences. It would be something probably I could watch your video and still kind of get the ideas, right?
The email automation is becoming more and more of a thing in some of these CRMs. And so I can't speak specifically to whether or not Close has it, but it would definitely be something that I would look for.
Yeah, and it would be worth watching and getting an idea because that's the whole point is it's like brain overload and trying to figure it out when Marc, you've done it all for us already. I just love that. And I've heard you talk about something which I am like so strong a believer is the importance of your why, having a strong why, not just a why, not a little wimpy why. But so can you talk about what that means for you? What's your why?
I mean, the overarching driving factor for me is freedom and flexibility. It really is about designing a life that is on my terms. And so a great example of that, tonight, in an hour or two after we finish this podcast, some of my family is coming to stay for the weekend. It's Thanksgiving weekend here in Canada.
Oh.
And I love the fact that we planned this a few weeks ago and I was able to book out Thursday and Friday on my schedule.
Nice.
If I was working in radio, that's not a possibility. I couldn't do that. And so a big part of it for me is being able to have complete control of my time, complete autonomy with my time. And then there are, I don't know if project to project basis is the right word, but there are other things along the way. So I've talked in the past, like at the end of January in 2020, we blew up our kitchen. Like we were going to renovate. And so we completely gutted out the entire kitchen. And then like 3 days before the replacement of the kitchen was supposed to start, the world shut down.
Oh, jeez. Oh my gosh. Oh my God.
So we lived for like 4 months. We had plywood subfloors. We didn't even have drywall. We had no plumbing. We had no electrical. We were doing our dishes in the bathtub. Every meal was cooked on the barbecue, like literally.
Oh no.
But my why in 2020 was my kitchen. I told my wife from the moment that we decided to do that renovation that we were going to do exactly what we wanted, that we weren't going to compromise, and that I wasn't going to finance it. And that was what my commitment was. And so every single day when I came into my office, I had little bulletin board that was hanging up on the wall. And on that bulletin board, there were the 3D renderings from the cabinet designer. There were pictures of the appliances, the specific appliances that we wanted. There were quote sheets from different people that we were going to be working with. Now, ultimately, I ended up having to do a lot of the work myself because of COVID, but still,
Right.
every
Good
day,
thing you could do that.
every day I came in and that was the first thing I saw when I walked into my office. And so it wasn't about submitting another audition or sending another marketing email or doing another social media post. It was about building our dream kitchen. I was thinking about building our dream kitchen.
Nice.
The following year, when we found out that we were pregnant, we had to blow up our basement.
Oh, yeah.
And so the kitchen pictures came down off of the bulletin board and you know, stuff for the basement went up and that became. And in the past, it's been, you know, family vacation and pictures of where we're going to go and what we're going to do. And so when I come in, my mindset goes straight to like, I can feel myself experiencing that family vacation with my kids. And that's what makes me send the emails. It's not sending emails because I get excited about sending emails. It's not submitting auditions because I get excited about submitting auditions. It's doing these things because I'm excited about what the end result of that is. And so what is the why that is going to drive you? Is it because you are at a day job that you just want to get out of and you want to be able to support yourself as a voice actor? That's a why. Is it because you're saving for a particular family vacation? Is it because you want to put a down payment on a house? Is it because you want to be able to buy a car? Is it because you got kids that are going to college? Is it because you're trying to save for retirement? Like whatever it is, you find that thing that is really what is driving you. This is why I'm doing it. And it doesn't even have to be monetary. It could be that you just need that creative outlet, or you're driven by I am committed that at some point in my career, I am going to work for X client, or I am going to have that Super Bowl ad or that AAA video game or whatever it is. You find that thing and you let that be the focus. And then everything else are just steps to the end goal, because nobody gets excited about sending another marketing email. Nobody gets excited about going to another networking event. Nobody gets excited about creating another social media post. Yeah. Those are just steps to what the end goal is. That's your why.
I like that you explained it that way, because a lot of times I think there's a why and then that's the why. You know what I mean? Here's the why and it doesn't change, but the why changes as the steps change.
It can.
You could have one why, but you could also, I like the idea of having different whys along the way. That makes more sense, you know?
Yeah. And that's, everybo's at a different point. Everybody's got different priorities. There's different things that matter. And so, like I said, freedom and flexibility is my overarching. That is the ultimate for me. But then along the way, it's, like right now, so we're trying to move. We've outgrown our house.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah,
I don't know.
We got to stop having kids. It's making it very difficult. And trying to buy like a 6-bedroom house, like those don't exist. But that's part of what's driving me right now. It's being able to get the money set aside that I need to be able to upgrade into a bigger house. And so when I come downstairs and I am sending more marketing emails or making more LinkedIn connections or building out another course or whatever it is, whatever the thing is that I'm doing, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about how nice it's going to be, how amazing it's going to feel to finally be in a house where we're not tripping over each other. And I can, there will be at least one room where there are no toys, and it's going to be glory. Like, look at this. Like, this is my office right now. And there's like, she's literally come in and taken over my office. Like,
I love it.
I just want one room. I want to have one room in a house where there doesn't have to be toys.
Oh my gosh, babe, don't look behind the screen. Yes, it's true. I get it. Believe me, I get it. Mine are all grown now, so I'm like, I love them, and I have a different relationship. I went to Montreal with my daughters, so it's different. But the toys, oh my gosh, covered, and dogs and cats, and no pets for you? Any pets?
No, but if we when we finally get our farm, I keep telling them that I'm going to buy a fainting goat. So.
Oh, I love them. Right? Are they the funniest things you've ever seen?
I have always been opposed to pets just because I've always been a traveler. Particularly for work. Like prior to COVID, I would spend probably 3 months of the year on the road doing
Oh, wow.
conferences and events and things of that nature.
Yeah.
COVID obviously changed that up a little bit. There's not as many conferences as there were. Having, 2 kids, 2 new kids, that changed things as well. But because of how much we traveled, I was very much opposed to the pet situation. But I keep saying that if we once we get our farm, there will be a fainting goat and maybe some chickens. So
I like that. And will it be in your area? Is there, as far as where you live
somewhere
now?
in this general
Mhm.
vicinity.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So now I want to talk about the voiceover marketing playbook for a moment.
Okay. We can do
Because
that.
I love it. I will tell you how I stumbled on it. Well, I stumbled on it a few times before I actually committed to doing it. I had heard about it, and then I was like, I don't think so. No, and like everybody's ready at different times, and
Yep.
sometimes you're ready, but you chicken out anyway. That
Yep.
kind of stuff.
Yep.
Literally, it was January. I think it was 2022. I got COVID that year. I was laying in bed, and it was closing, and I was like, "Is this a QVC moment? I think I'm gonna do it." I swear to you, I'll laid up go, "I really need this. This is what I need." And I remember messaging you from bed like, "Okay, I'm gonna sign up. Don't close it yet. I just need to get out of bed." And I swear, I signed up. It is the best thing I did. I really, truly, I advise people to do this, and I'm not doing it because you're sitting here in front of me, because I tell people about it all the time. I love that it was step by step. It all made sense. I like I think, is it 3 sessions with you? I forget how many depending on what level, right?
Depends on what level. Yeah. Either an hour of coaching.
Yeah.
So 2 30-minute sessions or 4 30-minute sessions, depending on which level you buy. Yep.
Oh, I went for, if I was going to go for it, I was going for the whole thing. Then you gave free, a whole bunch of free contacts and stuff like that, things to reach out to and stuff like that. It was just really a wonderful thing to do. And I loved just going through it. I also love the group. I love that when you update it, I get the new update. Yep. I can't tell you, nobody does that, Marc. Nobody does that. And so I really like that whole connection about it. So doing this, when did you start that? What year was that started?
I think the first year for Playbook was around 2016, maybe 2016 or 2017, maybe, I think. And it was not anything that I had ever intended to do, but the market was, everybody was coming. When are you going to do a course? Can you put this into a course? You got all this information. And so, now here we are on, this is Playbook 3.0. So this is the third iteration of it. And it has evolved a lot from the first course. And I listen, the first course was 5 hours and it was 5 videos. So it was literally like 5 1-hour videos.
Wow.
And one of the pieces of feedback that I got off of that first course was that it was so much that it was almost too much when you're trying to watch like an hour-long video. And so when I did the second iteration of the course, I broke it down and tried to make it, so it was, at that point, it was like, I don't know, 20 videos or something like that. And they were like maybe 10 or 15 minutes or something. When I did Playbook 3.0, I broke it down even a little bit further than that. So there's some 5 and 10 minute videos and just trying to make it more digestible and obviously trying to stay current. I think there are certain foundational principles of marketing that don't really change a lot over time. Maybe how we apply them changes a little bit over time, but strategies for social media and things like that change. And so I do try to keep the course updated. And I know it sounds like, he's just trying to be a nice guy or whatever, but my intention has never been to sell courses. It's not about selling courses. It's about helping people to grow their business. And so I can't fathom selling people the same information twice.
Right.
And so like I made a decision and this is not just with Playbook. This is every course that I do.
Yeah.
If you buy it, you will always have access to the updates. Like my LinkedIn course, I update every year. So there's people that bought that course 6 years ago who have had 6 different versions of that LinkedIn if they choose to go back and watch it, because it's not about trying to make as much money as possible off of voice actors. It's about just, give them some good information, help them grow their business. And so, I've already started. I have the tiny little seedlings of Playbook 4.0.
When are you planning on that? Do you know?
I'm not committing to anything yet.
Okay.
At some point next year would be the ideal.
Okay.
But the seedlings of that are there. And so, think about if you bought the original playbook in 2016 or 2017
Mm-hmm.
and you got access to the first course. And then when I totally redid the second course, you got
Yeah.
access to all of that. And then I totally redid it
Yeah.
again for the third one. And if I totally redo it again for the fourth one. And so and maybe in that sense, it's the gift that keeps on giving, but I just want you to have
It
good
is.
information. I really want people to have good information. And I stand by what's in the
Mhm.
course because I teach what I do.
Mm.
And so if I start doing something differently, then I will teach that
Mhm.
I'm doing something differently. And so there's an update that's got to go in the next version of the course or whatever. And whether that's playbook or my LinkedIn class or, whatever class it is that I'm teaching, I just want to make sure everybody's always got the latest, most relevant, most good information. And I think that's good for the industry as a whole. I think
Right.
if you're out there doing bad marketing as a voice actor, it makes us all look bad.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's true.
and everybody at some point, if you're doing email marketing, I think every single person that's ever done email marketing has had at least one instance where you reached out to a company and you got a really negative response.
Mm-hmm.
Great, just want to need another stupid voice actor. Or, you're the 27th voice actor that's marketed to me today, or whatever, right? And most of the time, those negative responses come as a result of bad marketing, and they just get fed up with it. They're done with it. And so, if I can help voice actors to market more effectively and more confidently, I think that's better for all of us. I don't see it. And one of the questions that I get asked all the time is, like, why are you creating your own competition? And I guess I've just never saw it that way.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I never think I'm never one of those people that don't share. There are some people, and actually, I don't really run across it. I have to say, in the voiceover community or podcasting, everybody's so giving. Certain
You and I are
things,
not booking the same job. So
right?
what like it does not hurt me.
Exactly.
It does not hurt me to share with you. And even
Yeah.
other male voice actors, we all sound different. We all bring something different to the
Right.
table. We're not booking all the
You're
same
not
jobs. And
right.
so I why not help each other? And so, I'm trying to do that.
Yeah, we're not, nobody's the same person no matter what. Yeah,
Yep.
so yeah, I agree. And I think you get back what you put out in life in
Mhm.
general.
I agree.
Um so the next one, I know the upgrade is whenever, but will you be opening up like for the playbook? Do you do that once a year, twice a year? I forget.
This year I did quarterly, which is the first time that I've ever done that, and that
Okay.
was something that I was really opposed to, but I had a couple
Mhm.
of mentors that I trust who were pushing me very hard to do it, and there were people that were asking for it as well. So I did do quarterly this year. So the next release is going to be in January. So it'll
Okay.
be January. I think it's the 7th to the 14th. I think are the dates that I set for it.
Okay.
So that will
Cool.
be January 2025 will be the next release. I am not
Cool.
going to promise 4.0 at this
It's all
point,
right.
but
Doesn't matter because we'll get it anyway.
you'll
If
get it
somebody
anyway.
joins in January, you're not missing out.
You will not miss out. You will definitely
So
not miss
you don't
out.
have to wait. So if you were to say to somebody, because I know because I went through the course, so I can say, oh my God, so worth it. But for like people that maybe are hesitating, which I did for probably 2 years, maybe 3, what would be different? Because there's a lot of courses out there. And what could you say about it that would makes this different than all the rest? Not all the rest. I don't be mean, but most of the rest.
I teach what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do has proven to work for me. And so I can stand behind the confidence of that.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what other people are teaching, what other people are putting into their courses. Maybe they teach the exact same thing as I do. Maybe they teach something completely different from what I do. There are different ways that you can approach this, but everything that I teach are the exact steps that I have taken and continue to take in my own business. And I know that they work, and that's why I teach them. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think there's that. The other thing, though, is I try to be incredibly upfront about realistic expectations. I am not promising you a 6-figure career. I am not promising you 6 months to 6 figures. Like, I am not promising any of that sort of stuff. And I see a lot of courses out there and coaches out there who do make statements like that. And I think it's crap. I
Yeah.
genuinely think it's crap.
Mm-hmm.
What I promise you is if you have professional training, professional demos, a professional home studio, and a website that hosts all of that stuff, and you are not booking, I will teach you how to market. And if you do the things that I teach in this course, I believe that it will work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you send 1 email a week, then you're going to get 1 email a week results. And if you send 5 emails a week, you're going to get 5 email a week results. And if you send 50 emails a week, you're going to get 50 email or 50 email a week results. And if you send 100, you'll get 100 a week results. But that's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I will give you all the information. I will give you the strategies and the tactics. Say this, do this, say it to this person. Here's how to find them. Like, I will give you all of that. What you choose to do with it from that point forward, that is on you. So I make no guarantees other than the information is good, the information works, and it's just up to you in how you are going to implement it. And I try to be really honest about that. I built a 6-figure business doing what I teach. That does not guarantee that you will build a 6-figure business. You could. And I know other voice actors who have, but I also know how hard they worked to do it.
Right.
So it is not a, this is the shortcut, quick and easy method to riches and fame and glory in voiceover. And I think the other thing that is, which was never intended, but it's become a byproduct of it, is I actually, one of my favorite things now is hearing from voice actors who have taken Playbook, used it for voiceover, but also used the principles that they've learned from the course and applied it to other things that they do, other side hustles that they've got. And even though the course is tailored, obviously, specifically to voice acting, and I teach foundational marketing principles in the course and tailor them to voice acting, but you could just as easily tailor them to, whatever side hustle you happen to have going on, if you have a side hustle going on. And it's kind of fun to hear stories from people of the different ways that they've taken the information and done something really cool with it.
That is cool. And I think a lot of it and the courses and just like a lot of the things you're doing just when talking to you is that overthinking of everything. It's not just for emails, right?
We're so
It's
good at that.
Overthinking. And once we get that out of our head, right? Stop
Yep.
overthinking. And, we see your face in there. Like, just do it. I used to take forever to write emails.
Yep.
Forever. And then when I took the course and I've been on other things that you've taught, I forced myself. And once you do it, you're like, oh, that's so easy, And if you have a CRM that shows you when people open your email, you're like, yay, they opened it. Even if they're not going to write back to me yet, I know they saw my stuff.
Yep.
They clicked on a link, and that was the easiest email I ever sent. So then do it for a while, and you realize you don't have to spend 8 years trying to send one email. It's just crazy. Also, you talk about staying current. So that is definitely a plus to where you obviously stay current in all the things you're doing, which you're sharing with us. So it's important to stay current in what we're doing. And sometimes we get complacent, right? In the place.
Oh, complacency is, that's literally the worst thing. Nothing will sink your business faster. And I think that's where I work with some veteran talent, because I work with a lot of new talent, but I work with veteran talent too. And as somebody who considers himself at this point to be a veteran talent, and somebody who also considers himself to be someone who teaches from experience, I know what it is like to build your business to a certain level and to get really, really busy and to stop doing the things that got you there in the first place. And you can get away with that for a little while, but only for a little while. Right. And if you stop doing the things that got you there in the first place for too long, all of a sudden man, I'm not seeing as many auditions, or, I'm not seeing as many clients as I used to see. I'm not booking as much as I used to book. Why am I not making as much money as I used to make? And that is complacency. It's when you allow yourself to get a little too comfortable and a little too settled in. And that is a very, very dangerous place to be.
Yeah, that's true. It is. And it can happen so easily.
Yep.
So easily.
Yep.
I want to move on to Christmas for a second. I love Christmas. I don't even know how I feel like I stumbled on you for so many years. I was like, what's Marc doing now? What's he doing? And you do tell me about the 12 voiceover gifts of Christmas, right?
Yep.
How did that start? And it has evolved into this.
It started originally as the 12 voiceover tips of Christmas.
Oh.
And so when I was writing my blog, still consistently back in the day, I got to a point where I was like, I need help with this. How can I how can I outsource my blog? And I'm a huge Christmas guy. I've always been a huge Christmas guy. And so by that point, I had a little bit of a network of, credible, reputable coaches and demo producers that I could reach out to and have a conversation with or whatever. And so I started reaching out to some of the people in my network. Jay Michael was there in the beginning, Ann Ganguza, Cliff Zellman. I think Everett wrote a post for me originally. Nancy Wolfson, I think, was part of one of the original ones. I think Joe Cipriano maybe had written one. So I reached out to a bunch of people and I just said, hey, this is what I'd like to do. I would like to create a blog series where every day for 12 days, we come out with a new tip. So would you be willing to write an article or a blog that I can use as a tip? And so I started it that way, and it went that way for 2 or 3 years, maybe. And then I don't know. I would love to tell you that there was like a brilliant, insightful moment of when I was like, oh, I should do this, but I don't think there was. I think it was just one of those things like, oh, I've been doing that for a while. What if I tried to do this? And so then I started saying, okay, what if I did prizes instead? And do the 12 voiceover gifts of Christmas and it, do a little live stream on Christmas Eve and hand out some prizes and have some fun. And I think that first year that we did that, I don't even remember. There was like $8,000 or $6,000 or $8,000 worth of prizes or something like that. And I was like, holy crap, this is absolutely amazing. And last year, what did we get? 2023. Now I got to look it up now, because now you got me curious. It was like $25,000 or something like that. Like it was a lot. Like I
was on there. My kids all come home for Christmas and Christmas Eve. I'm like, hold on, I'm out of here.
Yeah,
I got to jump on here.
It was huge. It has just continued to grow.
It's crazy.
And the generosity of people is absolutely incredible. Okay, $24,322.
Oh my God.
In prizes. There was 67 different winners.
That's so crazy. I love it. Your whole family gets into it. It's like the best thing. It is so cool.
It's getting to a point now, though. I said last year that I'm going to have to cap it because first of all, just from the management perspective, collecting all the prizes, the logistics of all of that. But then I can't do a 2-hour live stream on Christmas. Like I've got stuff going on. Everybody's got stuff going on. As much fun as we have and as amazing of a time as it is, I was like, I might actually have to try to figure out a way to cap this now because it's grown so huge. But I mean, that's got nothing to do with me. That I'm just the guy that facilitates it. But that is all about the generosity of the community and the amazing people who choose to participate. And some of them, like when I look back at the list and think like Jay Michael has been with me from the beginning. Uncle Roy has been with me from the beginning. Ann Ganguza has been on it from the beginning. Everett's been there. Cliff's been there. Like some of these people have literally been doing it every year since whenever the first one was, 2017 or something like that. Like it's just, it's amazing how people come together. And I have never, that I can recall, I have never reached out to somebody and had them say no. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's pretty amazing as well. And, over time, it's like, it almost becomes like a competition to one up. And it's not that specifically that I set that goal, but it's like, well, what did I give last year? Well, you did this. Okay, well, I'm going to do this and this. And I'm like,
oh my God. Was it, or am I just imagining this? Was it like while you were doing it, things were coming in, or am I imagining that? Were people saying add this in or something?
That happened for a few years. I think I kind of had to put a squash on that just because, again, it just was not manageable.
Right.
And so because that was going on. Oh, well, I want to give away this. I want to go.
I know. You're like, oh my gosh, we have another.
And the other thing too, for me, and this is not a knock. I never mean to knock on anybody's generosity, but I feel like I have to know you. And so if you're just on a live stream and you're like, hey, I'd like to give away this, like, is that legitimate? I don't know if that's legitimate or not legitimate or whatever. Like, I need to talk to you, have a conversation with you. And I think that's just more of a protection thing. Like, I want to make sure that everything's legit. I don't want to draw somebody's name for a prize and then find out that it wasn't real or, and so I kind of had to put a bit of a squash on that, but everybody gets into the spirit of it. And then, like we started doing, 2 years ago, I started doing the thing with, Nava and the Brad Venable Fund. And so, promoting the Brad Venable Fund at the beginning of the live stream. And, we've collected a couple $1,000s in donations as a result of as a result of the live stream, which I love. That means a ton as well. And so it's a pretty cool thing that, again,
it's amazing.
What it became is not what I thought when it started. And so it's just, you roll with it over time and see what it develops. Last year, my wife was kind of giving me a hard time. She was teasing me, but because I went out and I spent probably about $2,000 on equipment to be able to do a better live stream. Some lighting and some video streaming software and different things. Like I literally on Black Friday, I spent, it was $2,000 or $2,500 or something. I'm like, I'm spending $2,500 so that I can do a free live stream. Like, this is so, but I want it to be good. I want people to enjoy it. I'm like, if you're going to give me an hour of your time, like I want, let's try to make it fun and, have Santa Claus come on the show and have somebody sing a Christmas song and like all these different, like just every year there's something different that pops up, but it is a lot of fun, or I think it's a lot of fun anyway.
Oh, I think it's great. And it just shows who you are too. That's who you are. And that's the person you are. And just having all those connections and all those people in your life. And it just shows, which is great. So all these things you do, all the things we talked about, and there's probably so many more things. How did the age-old question, how do you balance like a quick, just a brief, like a day in the life of Marc when you get up in the morning on a work day, like a during the week or whatever work day?
I don't think any 2 days are the same for starters. Honestly, a lot of it now has just become it's getting in your reps. Mm-hmm. The first time that you go onto a casting site and you submit an audition, it takes you an hour to do an audition and get it edited and to make it nice. And for the first month that you're on, it takes that long. But you get to a point where you go and you submit that audition, and in 4 minutes, you've recorded it, you've edited it, and you've delivered it. And that is a result of just getting in your reps and getting better and getting more efficient over time. And I've experienced that with my voiceover, with my time to record, with my time to edit. I've experienced it with my podcast and the time to edit the audio, the time to edit the video. I've built in efficiencies over the years. I use AI tools, like I said, for my podcast to edit, using ChatGPT to, like one of the things that I've started doing was I started taking transcripts from old live streams that I had done and feeding those transcripts into ChatGPT and saying, give me the best content from this.
Yes.
And then it spits out like 10 different ideas. And these are things that I can still talk about because, maybe that was on a live stream 6 months ago, but it's still relevant today. Exactly. And so now, instead of having to sit down and come up with a week's worth of social media content that might take me a couple hours to think it up, now I can have ChatGPT do that for me in 6 minutes. And I take the ideas that it gives me and then I turn that into social media posts. And so it's looking for those efficiencies along the way. How can I automate something? How can I outsource something? Is this something I even need to do in the first place? And that's something else that has been big for me, is learning how to say no. Not having to do everything, not having to say yes to every event, to every request, to every email, to like it's things like that as well. But the main goal for me every day is I need to get in front of some new people. So whether that's emailing some new leads or creating a new post for LinkedIn or sending some connection requests or something like that, I need to get in front of some new people in some capacity every day. I need to nurture some people who are in my CRM already every day. So the prospects, the people who have expressed an interest, but I haven't started working with them yet. I need to nurture some of those relationships every day. And I need to check in with at least a client or two every
Mhm.
day. What else goes on in all of the time around that? Who knows? From day to day, I'm recording a podcast. I'm editing a podcast. I'm doing a live stream on YouTube. I'm doing coaching sessions. I'm recording voiceovers. I'm doing an e-learning. I'm whatever. Like I have no idea. But as long as every day I can say, okay, I got in front of some new people and I nurtured some relationships with some existing people in my database, then, I will still be able to have a business tomorrow. As long as I continue to do
Yeah.
that every day, I will continue to be able to have a business tomorrow.
Right. That is cool. That is cool. And do you have like a time frame? Do you say like, okay, I'm going to do a 5 a.m. or I'm going to be like, are you an early morning person, or does that change too? But do you have like a cutoff, or is it just I'm depending on the
If I
day?
am up at 5 a.m., it is
Yeah.
probably because my house is on fire.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not a 5 a.m. either. I did try that for a while. Well, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. Yeah, that doesn't work very
I
long.
read all these things, I read Entrepreneur Magazine or Forbes or Fortune Magazine and all this sort of stuff. And I read all these articles about these guys that are like, the key to success is to, be up in the gym at 5 a.m. And I'm like, forget it then. I don't want to
It's
be
not
successful.
happening.
No,
It's like it gives you a whole nother day in the week. I don't need it.
No, I'm fine. I'll settle right in where I am. You go ahead and do your 5 a.m. gym call.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I try to make my day from 9 to 3, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. That way I can be hopefully done work when my kids get home from school. Maybe I go and cook dinner or whatever. Now, it doesn't always happen, but I try to plan my day that way. But next week, well, depending on when this episode airs, but my 12-year-old is running her school's cross country.
Oh.
And so I've booked the day off so that I can go to her cross country race.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's on a Tuesday. And so, I'll probably work Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, maybe into the night on Tuesday to make up for that. But that comes back to what I was talking about earlier, which is the freedom and flexibility of it all, right? I've worked some late nights this week. Last night I was in the booth or in the studio until like 1:30 in the morning, but that's because I knew my family is coming Thursday, Friday, and I want to hopefully not have to work on Thursday, Friday. If a job comes in or whatever, I'll do it, but ideally I can take it off. And so even the idea of having set hours, it's all flexible.
Yeah.
And I think that comes back to, when I was working in radio, I had no control over my time. I had a set show, but that could also change. I could show up to work and my boss could be like, next week, I need you to come and fill in on the morning show. Or, Friday afternoon, I show up for my show and my boss is like, hey, sales sold a remote and I need you here tomorrow for and stuff like that just drove me insane. We were joking. I was late to this interview because I screwed up the dates and got the times mixed up. And I like literally if you want to tick off Marc Scott, screw with his time. Like you could do pretty much anything else to me, but and I wouldn't even notice. But if you mess with my time, I get really frustrated. And so for me to do that, like,
well, now I have a pass, right?
Oh my gosh, you have such a pass. And I felt so sick. No. I felt so sick about that. But that is, I need to have autonomy of my time. I need to have that complete flexibility. So yes, I try to set my days 9 to 3, but some days might be 9 till 3 a.m. And some days might be 8 p.m. till 12 p.m. And like, who knows? But that's the beauty of what we do.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So before we close out, too, I want to ask, I have a signature question I always ask. You might have answered it in here, but if not, and something comes to mind, I always like to end with the question, can you share a moment in your life, doesn't have to be career, could be overall life, where you had to show resilience or you experienced divine intervention or you had to pivot in a big way?
I think it was when I lost my radio job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I recently had the privilege of doing the keynote for the eVocation event.
Oh, yes.
And I told a story in the beginning of that keynote and people were talking afterwards about, like they saw a side of me that they had never seen before. And, I probably showed a side of me that I wasn't even really sure existed, but there was a lot of vulnerability in that. But I said, when I found out that I was getting let go, after I walked out of the radio station, I went and sat in the parking lot and bawled my face off. And I hadn't cried since the last time I cried. So this was 2011. How old was I in 2011? I don't know, 30s, early 30s. Mid 30s. I don't even know. Anyway, last time I had cried before that was I was in grade 7.
Wow.
It was when my parents split up. So I hadn't cried in, 2 decades or whatever.
Yeah.
And I went and sat in the car and I bawled my face off because I was scared. It was the first time in my life that I had ever been unemployed. And I did not know what I was going to do. And I came from radio. So it's not like I had a big bank account and all kinds of money set aside or whatever. And it was one of the scariest, intimidating moments of my life. And I felt like a complete failure for the first time in my life because I had never, for my entire broadcasting career, I had never pursued a job. Every job had pursued me. And so to be let go, it just felt like complete failure. And so to be able to turn that into the business that I've built for myself now, there was definitely a level of resilience that did not come instantly. There was a lot of, like I said earlier, there was a lot of wallowing and self-pity and there was a lot of that went on for a while, and definitely a little bit of victim narrative and complex and, oh, woe is me and all of that. But eventually realizing this is not helping you and this is not how you are going to move forward. And so I would say that was probably one of those areas where there was a great deal of resilience and a massive pivot, because it also meant, for the first time in my life, being the employer and not the employee, which is a totally different way to think and work and operate. I mean, one of the reasons why a lot of voice actors don't make it has nothing to do with their talent or their skill or their ability. It has to do with a lack of discipline to be able to be your own boss. And it's because we're not taught how to do it. Nobody teaches you that stuff. And so it is a totally different mindset that you have to bring each day to get up and go to work and do it at home for yourself. And I think some people got a taste of that with work from home during the pandemic and this idea of self-starter and getting up and going into the office and doing your Zooms and all that sort of stuff. But it's a totally different kind of mentality. And so there was definitely a pivot that occurred there as well. Like now I'm accountable to me. If I don't show up for my shift, my boss is calling and kicking my rear end. But if I decide to sleep in today and don't go do some auditions, nobody is going to care.
Right.
I'm going to feel it later, but nobody's going to care and nobody's going to call me out for it unless I care and I call me out for it. And that's a huge mindset and a huge pivot to think that way and be able to operate that way.
It is huge. And it's okay to, be upset and to crying and having that, but knowing that you're not staying there. I've had that in my lifetime where you're like, I am like rock bottom, but you're not staying there. You don't know when you're getting out, but it's not going to be too long. But you need to wallow for a little bit.
I'm at a point now where if something doesn't go how I wanted, I missed a goal or I failed on something or whatever, I always say, you are allowed a day.
Right.
And I tell myself that out loud.
Yeah.
You're allowed a day. You take your day, you have your pity party, you feel sorry for yourself, you eat a bag of chips, you sit on the couch and watch Netflix, whatever it is, you're allowed one day. But tomorrow, you're coming to work.
That's it.
And I give myself out loud, like I give myself that pep talk because I need to have that reminder. Do not get stuck here. Feel the feels, give yourself that, feel the feels, but then get back to work.
Yes. That's true. And I like the limited time. That is so true, because otherwise you can wallow forever. But if you don't do it, you're like you're like chipping away at the wallowing as you're going along. So it's great to do that. It really is. So is there anything that you wanted to share that I didn't ask you? I didn't mention your Free Advice Friday. So if nobody knows about that, they need to know. I love Free Advice Friday. Tell us what that is.
Free Advice Friday is a live stream that I do on YouTube. Not every Friday, but I try to do it at least a couple of times a month. Jump online for an hour, Friday afternoons, 1:00 Eastern time, and just hang out and answer voiceover business and marketing questions, which is as much for me as it is for the people who participate, because it helps me to get a sense of what everybody needs, what they're struggling with right now, keeps me sharp. Sometimes people ask a question I don't know the answer to, makes me want to go and figure it out or look it up or whatever, so I can keep my finger on things that way. So I really enjoy that. I think the other thing, and I've said this before, but however much time and effort and energy that you are going to devote to the craft of voiceover, taking classes, workshops, coaching, preparing for your demos, learning how to edit, getting better at auditioning, all of those sorts of things. Spend at least a percentage of that, if not an equal amount of that, on learning how to run a business.
Yes. Yes.
Take an entrepreneurship course. Take a small business class. Go to a marketing conference or a marketing event. Read a marketing book. Listen to a marketing podcast. Like, do that too. Because that is, for most of us today, that is how the business works. The idea that, the romantic idea of going out and landing a big name agent and having them do everything for you and just sitting back and making the bucks. I'm not saying it's not possible. Sure it is. It is not the reality for most voice actors. And so your business and what your business is going to look like is going to be primarily contingent on your ability to run a business. And I think that we go to all the voiceover conferences, which we should. I love them. I go to them all myself as well. We don't hesitate to spend money on a coaching session or a workshop or a new demo or all of that. But if you're not spending at least a percentage of your budget on sales training, marketing training, small business training, entrepreneurship training, something like that, like, Frig, go to the library and get some books. Like, it doesn't, like, you don't even have to spend money to do some of this stuff. And I didn't spend a lot of money in the beginning. I went to the library and did the books and I did the podcasts and all that sort of stuff. But it will make a huge difference in the end result of your business.
Yeah, I love that. That's like the best advice ever, because you can't do one without the other. You just can't. So would you share your favorite quote or one of your favorite quotes with us?
This one I was struggling with because there's about 1 billion of them. I am a collector. I'm a collector of quotes.
I love quotes.
But I came down, I narrowed it down to 2. And so one of them actually comes from the Bible, and it's Matthew 25:29, which says, "To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away."
I like that.
And I think that we often associate that specifically with money. And I think there's probably an element of that. But I also think that that is a testament to how we use our time, how we use our skills, how we use our gifts, and being a good steward of the blessings that I have been given, whether those are financial blessings, monetary success in my business, or whether that is, we'll call it wisdom, knowledge, and the things that I've been able to learn. It's equally important to me to not just learn it, but to be able to share it, to teach it, to help other people, to make that investment in other people. And so I think that's just a principle that I've lived by most of my life. And then the other one, which this might not come as a surprise to you, but it's a Tony Robbins quote, which is, "Where focus goes, energy flows." And because you've taken Playbook. I mean, Playbook is a marketing course, but hands down, the most popular module in Playbook is the module on mindset. It is the one that I get the most comments on. It is the one that I get the most feedback on. It is the one that is consistently viewed the most, because I think that our mindset and what we bring to this voiceover game is a huge part of a huge determining factor in whether we ultimately succeed or fail. And that just breaks down to, I mean, I credit Tony Robbins with my business being where it is today because he's somebody that I studied before I really found any level of success in voiceover. I credit Tony Robbins with why I have a retirement account today because I read one of his books, Money to Master the Game. And that was after reading that book, that was when I went out and made my first investments.
Wow.
And so he has been a virtual mentor for me for many, many years. But one of my favorite quotes, because it's so simple, is where focus goes, energy flows. And so if you are coming from a negative space, whether that's I hate marketing, I suck at marketing, I'm no good at marketing, walking into the booth, I'm not feeling it today, I'm not really any good today, I'm just never been able to figure out this genre, I suck at conversational, all these different little things that we tell ourselves become more of a factor than I think that we realize. And I think it all gets summarized nicely in that quote that where focus goes, energy flows. So why not focus on something good?
Yeah, you're right. I love that so much. Tell everyone where we can find you.
Viopreneur.com is the website. You can find the podcast, Free Advice Friday, links there. You can book a free 15-minute consultation with me and have a conversation about your business. And then any of the coaching programs that I offer, workshops, masterclasses, all that sort of stuff. It's all there at viopreneur.com.
I love it. I love it. And before we go, I give a huge shout out to my daughter, Victoria Lynn Purdy. She actually, she's a singer-songwriter, and she actually created the Time to Elevate theme song for me.
Nice.
Marc, this was so great. I can't tell you how much I love hanging out with you. You've motivated me now. Now I'm like, I'm going to send all those emails tomorrow. I'm going to be great.
That's it. Go do the thing.
Oh my God. I so appreciate you. And go enjoy your family. And I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really do appreciate it. And I am sorry again for being late.
Oh, it's fine. I actually loved it. It made me laugh.
It's a good reminder. Yes. You know what? As much as I look like I got it all together online and I present very well in my YouTube videos and all that sort of stuff, you know what? Every once in a while, Marc Scott screws the pooch too. So
it made me feel so much better, Marc. I love it. So I'll see you soon.
All right.
Life gets tough, and I know it's hard to cope with the unknown. For all of us, I know it'd be easy if we were perfect, but we're not. So we go to find our faith, to find our hope. It all begins with looking up. It all begins with you. It's time to